As usual, this video will feature a walk from one underground station to another, in this case Moorgate to Liverpool Street. But being on the northern edge of the City of London, this area has a long history. Moorgate was an old gate in London's city wall, situated to the west of where the River Walbrook crossed into the city. The Walbrook is a long-lost river of London. The Walbrook ran between the two main hills of the city, Ludgate Hill to the west and Cornhill to the east. It rose in the Shoreditch area and eventually flowed into the Thames. Let's get our bearings on the modern map and show where Moorgate and Liverpool Street stations are. But now we'll go back in time to the year 1520, with exactly the same footprint as we saw on the modern map. By Tudor times the Walbrook had been culverted within the city, but still ran in open country outside the wall. This is a wider view of the area, but now we'll zoom in to focus on the Moorgate area in particular. Once again on the zoomed in version of the 1520 map, I've marked out the route of the River Walbrook. Once it crossed London Wall into the city, it was bricked over, since it long since had turned into a sewer. But outside London Wall, the Walbrook would regularly flood the low-lying area to the north, making building difficult. Contemporary William Fitzstephen described the Great Fen which washed against the northern wall of the city. So whereas London slowly spread to the west and to the east, the marshy conditions of Moorfields hindered urbanisation to the north. Indeed, London's walls seem to have acted as a dam, restricting the flow of the river. The name of the district immediately to the north of the City of London was Finsbury, which derived from Fensbury, from the fen or marsh. As time went on, the Walbrook north of the wall was culverted as well, and this slowly opened up the hitherto marshy land for building. On this 1690 map, Moorfields is still connected to the open country to the north. London is starting to extend around it. But we'll quickly move to a view created some 60 years later, the John Rock map. This is quite a marvellous map with a lot of 18th century detail, and it's rewarding to take a closer look. In the video description I've created a link to a website where you can see all the maps that I've used. But on this 1750s map, the three distinct green spaces known as Moorfields are being further surrounded by building. A mental hospital, Bedlam Hospital, has been built on the southernmost Moorfields. By 1800, Finsbury Square and other new roads have put paid to the other two Moorfields, as the new suburb of Finsbury starts to develop. By the way, Finsbury is one of London's more confusing names. There's this Finsbury, just to the north of the City of London, and there's quite a separate area called Finsbury Park, much further to the north. By the 1830s, these southern Moorfields and its hospital had disappeared. Finsbury Circus replaced them both in 1812. And here's an 1860s map, and there's not a lot of change in the area, but a major street leading east out of Finsbury Circus is called Liverpool Street. The station named after it has not yet arrived on this map, and neither has the Metropolitan Railway. But by 1900, both Liverpool Street Station and the Underground are shown. Indeed, one of the hidden features of Finsbury Circus is that the Metropolitan and Circle Line tracks now run in a tunnel straight across it, west to east. And this brings us bang up to date, and it's now time to walk across the landscape. Here we are underground on the Hammersmith City line at Moorgate station. It was opened as Moorgate Street in 1865 by the Metropolitan Railway, and in 1900 the City and South London Railway added Moorgate to its network, and the Great Northern City Railway began serving the station in 1904. Thameslink served Moorgate for a while, but Thameslink services were withdrawn early in the century, and a new ticket hall was built connected to the newly opened Elizabeth line at Liverpool Street in 2021. But we get two Moorgate station entrances for the price of one here. But the walk proper begins at Moorgate, on Moorgate the street, and we'll walk south for a while until the entrance to Finsbury Circus. Before we get to the circus itself, fronting the northwest quadrant is this building. This is Edward Lutyens' massive Britannic house, which dates from about 1921. It was designed for the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, which became BP, and the sculptures you see are by Francis Derwent Wood. Finsbury Circus at 2 acres is actually the largest public open space within the City of London's boundaries. The gardens, when they aren't a building site, feature a circuit of lime trees, and they were developed by a guy called William Montague to the specifications of the notable architect George Dance the Younger in 1815. And George Dance was the person who had created the original London road known as Circus in the Tower Hill area. The gardens here have a lawn bowls club in the centre, and this has existed in the garden since 1925, and there's also a bandstand. In 1819, the London Institution moved into the quite ugly modern building on the left here. They were called at the time ingeniously planned and elegantly detailed premises, and it was designed by William Brooks. But it closed in 1912, and the University of London took them over until their demolition in 1936. But Finsbury Circus was created in 1812 on the site of the former Lower Moorfields, as we saw earlier. And the Bethlehem Royal Hospital had stood on Lower Moorfields since 1675. The original houses were intended for merchants and gentlemen, but they were soon broken up internally and leased for solicitors and other professions. During the years 1860 to 65, Finsbury Circus was threatened with demolition in favour of a railway station here. But there were lots of public protests, and this stopped the plan going ahead. And in 1869, the oval of Finsbury Circus was tunnelled for the Metropolitan Railway. Later, between 2010 and 2020, the central section of the gardens were taken up for the construction of the Liverpool Street Elizabeth line station. We now walk down the former East Street, which is now simply labelled as part of the name Finsbury Circus. We briefly walk on to Blomfield Street here, but it's a bit of a construction site. And next up is the road called Liverpool Street. This is the road that gave its name to the station, and we pass the quite recent 2022 entrance to the Elizabeth Line station. And as I said before, the platforms actually extend under Finsbury Circus. Now, a lot of London names are just pure happen chance, and the powers that be built a new street in 1829, and like all new streets, it needed a name. A notable former British Prime Minister had died the previous year, and our 19th century forebears were very fond of naming streets after politicians in a way that modern Brits just don't. I don't know of a Harold Wilson Avenue anywhere in London. But Liverpool Street commemorates that former Prime Minister, Robert Banks Jenkinson, the second Earl of Liverpool. And when the new Great Eastern Railway's London terminus needed a name, it was named after the street fronting it. And before they got to build Liverpool Street Station, the Great Eastern terminated at a station called Bishopsgate, which was in Shoreditch, not far north of the current station. But it would have been a really good idea to call Liverpool Street Station also Bishopsgate, because it's on Bishopsgate on its eastern face. And it would have been quite a good name for the station, as Liverpool Street is quite confusing for some tourists, as they think they can go there and get to Liverpool. But they can't. Anyhow, we have concluded our walk, and I'll see you on the next walk, which will be Liverpool Street to Aldgate East, or Liverpool Street to Aldgate if you're following the Circle Line. You have a choice of two.